Should you let a cruise line book your air? That's today's topic on Cruising with Eric. Hello cruisers, it's your friend Eric coming to you from my backyard here in Charlotte, North Carolina today. It's actually like 70 degrees today, it's 20 last week, so we're outside today. I want to talk to you about a hot topic, at least I think it's a hot topic, and that's whether or not you should let a cruise line book your airfare. Nutshell, I say it all the time. Reasons to let a cruise line book your air, it's usually cheaper. Reasons to not let a cruise line book your air, everything else. I have done it successfully. There are people who always say on social media, well, I've had my air booked through the cruise line 15 times and I've never had a problem. My response to those people is, you've been lucky. Because booking your air with the cruise line is great until something goes wrong. And then you got to get a hold of someone at the cruise line's air department, because when you try to talk to the airline, they will usually say to you, sorry, you have to talk to who booked this for you. Let me tell you a story. Labor Day weekend 2019, I was supposed to sail on the Norwegian Breakaway out of Miami. And all week, here comes Hurricane Dorian. All week, I was monitoring the weather, and some of the other cruise lines canceled their cruises, but NCL did not cancel that cruise because it looked like the hurricane was going to pull way north of Miami, and it in fact did pull way north of Miami. Saturday, we go to the airport, we get on the plane, and we fly to Miami, and then we find out the cruise is canceled. We were told, no, the cruise isn't actually canceled. We're just going to leave early on Sunday morning. We're going to get in and get out, and we're telling the people who aren't already here not to come. Okay, great. I can be there early tomorrow morning. And then at about 10 o'clock that night, we got a message that the cruise was canceled entirely. I called my travel agent, and she said, you're going to have to call the NCL Air Department. They open at 9 o'clock in the morning. Here's the phone number. Right at 9 a.m., I called, and I must have been the first person in the queue to call up because I immediately reached a person, and they said, oh, yes, we can help you get your flights changed to get back home. Oh, wait, you booked through a travel agent. You have to call them. I've since been told that that was wrong, that the NCL Air person should have helped me, but I've also gotten conflicting answers on that. But my agent then spent hours on the phone with them trying to get my flights arranged to where I could get back home. So she calls me and says, I haven't heard back from the NCL Air Department, but I can see on your American Air profile that you're on the 5 o'clock flight from Miami to Charlotte. So I go to the airport and try to check in, and they said, oh, this has been booked, but it hasn't been ticketed. Or maybe ticketed but not booked. I don't remember. But what it meant was it had been reserved but not paid for. The change fee for the air had not been paid yet. And American Airlines told me, sorry, you're going to have to talk to whoever booked this for you. And I just envisioned myself being on hold for hours with NCL when the flight was only an hour and a half away. So I went ahead and paid out of pocket over $400 the change fee so we could get home that day. And it took me a couple months of arguing with NCL to get that money back. I'll tell you another story about NCL Air. I was on a cruise in Europe just a few months ago. We cruised out of Southampton, and there was a woman in the solo group who lived in Los Angeles, and she booked her air through NCL. Now, did NCL book her LA to New York to London? No. Did they book her LAX to Dallas to London? No. LAX to Charlotte to London? No. They booked her on Air Canada through Toronto. And of course, the flight from Los Angeles to Toronto was late, and then she mixed her connection from Toronto to London. She ended up missing the first day of the cruise. She had to catch up with us in Belgium, and she was without her luggage for the entire 10 days she was on the ship. Now, if she had booked her air directly or chosen it herself, she may have had a better itinerary and probably would have gotten better customer service from the airline. So that's just two examples of when air booked by a cruise line went wrong. And I hear these stories all the time. You know, there's these Facebook groups for the cruises, and it seems like almost every cruise, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the hotel because I fly in the day before. Always do that, always fly in the day before. I'm laying in the hotel, 7 o'clock in the morning, I look at the Facebook group, and almost every cruise there's at least one person who posts on the Facebook group, oh, my flight from Minneapolis to Atlanta was late, and now the airline's telling me I'm not going to get to Orlando until 5 p.m. The ship will be gone by then. At that point, all they can really do is get documentation from the airline that they showed up in time and the flight was canceled, and just call their travel insurance. And if those people had booked their own air, then maybe they would have had better connections or better flights in the first place. Yes, you can save a lot of money, but in the end, you might be sorry. I always recommend booking your air direct. Sometimes there are exceptions to that. A few months ago, there was a woman on one of the Facebook groups, and she lived in San Diego, and she was looking to take a cruise that left out of Seattle and ended up in Tokyo. And the advice that I gave her was, call the cruise line and see if you can get them to do your air just from Tokyo to San Diego. Probably have to go through LA to do that. And she could probably save a lot of money and then get her own flight to Seattle before the cruise. So if it's a point-to-point cruise like that, or if you're doing transatlantic, like if you're doing Miami to Barcelona or Miami to Southampton, maybe have the cruise line book your airfare home after the cruise, but do your own air before the cruise. That makes sense, because when you're going to the cruise, you want to make sure you get there on time. Whereas if you're coming home, you don't really care if you're a day late, $1 short, or if your bags take a couple days to catch up with you. Bottom line is, I really do believe that you're much better off booking your air yourself rather than booking your air through the cruise line, with the rare exception of if you're going point to point like transatlantic, transpacific, and you have the cruise line book your air home. The air after the cruise, not before the cruise. Best of luck to you. I really hope the Kraken doesn't strike if you're trying to fly to your cruise, and have fair winds and following seas. This has been a production of Cruising with Eric. Please like, share, and subscribe.